What Conor wants, Conor gets, and he's not going to lightly pursue something and not show up 100%. When that octagon door closes, his eye of the tiger is going to kick in, and all that's going to be over there. Has already sold over $20 million in ticket sales. It's already the biggest show ever.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to the one and only Bruce Buffer, the voice of the UFC, an entertainer.
You know, and thank you for all the kind words. I appreciate it, Andrew.
Tell me
Great
about
guy.
the one and only, because Conor McGregor and Jon Jones, the only ones ever to get that from you. They earned that. Tell me about the thought that went into that. Was that something that you gave some thought before the event that came to you? And what do you have to do to earn that?
Well, it came to me, doing it because they're two such icons of the UFC. Jon Jones being the GOAT, as pretty much everybody's going to agree with. Aside from the troubles and tribulations he's been through, he is the GOAT. Conor McGregor having the tremendous it factor that he has and the effect he's had on the UFC, bringing these huge amount of pay-per-view buys. I mean, look, the show coming up in June has already sold over $20 million in ticket sales. It's already the biggest show ever, right? Conor McGregor does a movie, Roadhouse. He's the highest paid first-time actor ever, reportedly. Conor McGregor starts his liquor business with Proper 12, and boom, look at how it took off. I mean, he has a definitive it factor, which makes him truly the one and only, right? Jon Jones being the GOAT that he is, truly the one and only. So I try to reserve that. And with all respect to all the other fighters, you have to earn your position to get something. And it's just like when I bowed, right? I've only bowed to two fighters. I bowed to Randy Couture and Anderson Silva, okay? Because I knew their careers were in the UFC. That was it. And they deserved that bow for all that they did for us, right?
Who on the current roster is going that way that they warrant or have earned that moment right now?
Jose Aldo he was just in, and I could have done it for him at a point, but I know his career was still moving forward. But Jose Aldo will deserve a bow at a certain point when it is his last fight, as others will too. With all due fairness, I'm going to hold back on that, and I'll tell you why. Because I'd like to surprise people when I do it. But there are so many fine male and female fighters out there that are working, putting their blood, sweat, and tears on the line to get to that point. So I'd like to reserve that for when the moment happens. Because if I say it now, then you're going to say, oh, when is he going to say it? When is he going to say it, right? If you're paying attention to it. So let me hold that back until that moment happens.
Conor coming back is a huge story, right? You already mentioned the buzz around the ticket sales and everything. But from a performance standpoint, having achieved so much outside of the octagon, what do you expect from him as an MMA fighter at the moment?
Once a fighter, always a fighter. It's in your blood. And Conor can go party on his yacht and do whatever he's doing and left and right. And we all know that he was doing the same thing before some of his other fights, right? So if his head is in the game, which I assume it is, he's going to go out. He's going to train hard. He's going to be prepared for that moment. And no matter how many hundreds of millions of dollars he has and everything he has going for him and all that's happening, when that octagon door closes, his eye of the tiger is going to kick in, and all that's going to be over there. He's going to be Conor McGregor at that point. He's going to be Conor McGregor walking into that arena, right? He's going to be focused on his opponent, Michael Chandler. So we're going to see Conor McGregor as Conor McGregor. Now, whether he reigns victorious, whether he's still, with his long layoff, going to fight like he fought before, the last thing in life that goes is speed. Power stays there forever, but he's still a young man. He's still in his prime. He's still, an amazing athletic specimen. So I expect a really good fight. It's going to be a very tough fight, but he has an extremely, extremely tough opponent in Michael Chandler. I mean, if you look at those training videos that Michael Chandler's posting, he's an animal, So it's going to be a war. I never pick winners. May the best man win. But listen, it's Conor McGregor coming back. What Conor wants, Conor gets, and he's not going to lightly pursue something and not show up 100%. So you'll see. We'll all see when he walks in.
How much fun did you have with those guys on Tough? I remember them both in the ice bath and you asking the question to Michael Chandler about Conor getting submitted by Khabib, which took, some stones. I thought that was a great moment. What was the atmosphere like in the room there?
It's all good. Conor and I get along great. Listen, in life, when you get to the point you're a public figure, to whatever level you're a public figure on, you got to have a thick skin. You got to be able to deal with what people say about you and such, and let it roll off you like water, like Bruce Lee says, be like water. But I wasn't there to put down Conor or put down Michael. It's a show. It's a fun show. You're having fun. You got to be able to laugh at yourself. It's what we call being self-deprecating. That's why when I do commercials like for a Blue Chew product or a Manscaped product, I'm having fun. I'm making fun of myself. You got to lighten up. It's all good.
Do you think we could see a classic, given what Michael Chandler's done, what Conor's done? Could we see like an all-timer here?
What do you mean? Oh, an all-time fight?
Yeah.
Oh, I think we're going to see a hell of a fight. Yeah, that first round is going to dictate everything. We know how Michael comes out in the first round. We know how Conor comes out in the first round. So it's kind of like National Geographic when you see those two elks coming together like that. Fireworks, baby. We'll see what happens. I mean, they're either going to feel each other out that first round or they're going to go for it. And I think they're going to go for it.
The evolution of this thing has just been incredible since you arrived, how big it's gotten. Dana White's been a big part of that. Having worked with him for so long, what is he like to work with?
Dana's a maverick. Dana's incredible to work with. We would not be where we are today without Dana and, of course, the Fertitta brothers' guidance and everything they've done for us. But the beautiful thing about Dana is that he cares about the fighters. He loves what he does. He's 24/7 working for it, developing all these other, the Contender Series, the slap fights, all the other stuff that he does. But like he said, he wakes up every morning and he loves going to work. And it shows. His passion is there. And to have that passion after you've made so much money and accomplished so much and to still have it to do on a daily basis what he does, he's to be commended. So it's a great thing to work. It's great working with Dana and the whole team. We have an incredible team at the UFC, thanks to the guidance of Dana White and the powers that be, right? And when I say he's a maverick. He's a figurehead.
You could say the same thing about Joe Rogan. What a duo, the way you guys have that synergy, that chemistry. What makes Rogan special, do you think?
Well, what makes Rogan special, again, I'll get back to it. I'm saying it for all of us, is passion for the game, right? And it shows. And also Rogan being a martial artist, a very high-level martial artist himself, black belt in jiu-jitsu, no-gi jiu-jitsu, his background, I think it's Taekwondo, his style, his background there, the kickboxing background, everything. I have a long martial arts background myself. You appreciate what we're doing. I mean, it's his world, just like it's my world. It's his world, and he loves it. And his commentating, the honesty, the passion that comes through in his commentating, his natural excitement. And Joe is a very established person in business and in life with all he does, right? Yet he still devotes his time to the UFC and he's there. Joe Rogan and John Anik, you couldn't ask for a better commentating team in the UFC. You couldn't do it.
It's delivered a lot of goosebumps moments, a lot. And that's what it's all about, right? It's entertainment, it's sport. If you had to pick one moment that really gave you goosebumps, having you delivered these moments to other people, which moment was it for you that stands out?
Well, you got to realize, again, I've announced pretty much every UFC fight there is and every fighter that has stepped in that octagon and all the major pay-per-views and this, that, and the other, except for the one I missed when I had COVID that time. How do I say this? It's hard for me to pick the most defining moment because I've had so many moments, right? I can only give you an example. So one prime example is the finale to the first Ultimate Fighter, the first Tough, when Stephen Bonner and Forrest Griffin threw down. And that fight and that main event of that very first series of that TV show pretty much put us on the map stronger than ever. I like to say that we were on Spike TV back then, that we made Spike TV and Spike TV made us. But at that definitive moment when that fight took place, if you understand TV ratings, they went from like a 5 to like a 12 or 15 as everybody tuned into that fight. And that was a roll of the dice and a huge financial roll of the dice by Dana and the Fertittas to make that show happen. And it literally just exploded from that point forward. And I can think of other defining moments too. I can go on and on and on.
The Rock is currently training for the Smashing Machine. Do you think he would ever have made it as a UFC star?
Yes, I do. I think he's even said that himself. He has the athleticism, the power, everything else. If mentally he's of the mind frame of a fighter, I mean, playing football the way he did, coming from the wrestling background, having the father and growing up the way he did, I would think he would have as good a shot as anybody.
Would you be knocked out or tapped out if you had the choice?
Oh, tapped out.
I think that's logical.
I've been knocked out. I'd rather be tapped out. I've been tapped. I was tapped out by Hoist Gracie in 1991 when I went over to his dojo and he pulled me in a room for one of the Gracie Challenger type things.
Yeah, I got tapped out by Misha Tate once, and it was an experience. So I'll take it.
I mean, that was 1991. That was 2 years before the UFC ever came on the scene, and a famous director named John Milius, who did Conan the Barbarian and Red Dawn and all these great movies, directed and wrote them, asked me to come train with him and Hoist Gracie back in 91. Or he said, come train at the Gracie studio. He said, have you ever done jiu-jitsu? I go, I was kickboxing pretty heavily back then. And I said, I've trained jiu-jitsu. He goes, you never trained Gracie jiu-jitsu. And he took me over to the dojo, and out comes this young, maybe 20-something, 170-pound, 6'1" young man. And, hi, my name is Hoist. Come with me. Took me into a room, closed the door. It's all padded up. He goes, I understand you're a kickboxer. Come at me. Take my head off, right? And it was funny. I said, you want to put on some gloves? He goes, no, let's just do this. So we went at it, right? And 45 seconds later, he has me down on maybe 40, I don't know, let's call it 45. He had me down on the ground in a side choke, and he goes, tap, 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 because he was getting me, right? And I tapped out. I'll never forget it. He gets up in the guard, straightens out his gi, and he says, see, isn't it nice not to get hit in the face, right?
Wow.
And then 2 years later, he comes out in the UFC, and I'm watching it with family and friends, and I go, see that skinny kid right there? He's going to beat everybody. Watch. He's going to beat everybody.
Any hobbies outside the UFC?
I train. I stay healthy. I'm a movie buff. I'm a big collector of sports memorabilia, like unopened wax packs and cards from the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. I've got Michael Jordan rookies and boxes of Magic Johnson rookies, unopened wax packs of cards of baseball and football from the 50s. I'm a big collector of that. I collect antique weapons, guns, and artifacts. I used to promote antique gun shows where people come and trade, which is a big business in the world today, trading antique weaponry from like World War II and before, and movie memorabilia. I love collecting vintage movie posters from pre-1970, the 40s, the 30s, the 50s. So I have different areas of collecting that I love, and I read and work and take care of my family. There's my passion.
Sounds like a very cool collection. What did you do before you were a ring announcer? I think you touched a little bit upon this earlier.
Like I said, I had my first company. I was in telemarketing, selling office supplies, and all across the country, and had a number of businesses there. I had an import-export business. I had an alarm installation company putting camera and alarm systems in homes and businesses all over Southern California. I was involved in a number of different things, but again, cutting my teeth, businesses I created that I went through until I met my brother, Michael Buffer, late in life when I was like 28 years old, and I started managing his career 4 years later. And I sold 2 companies. I was doing great. I was beach house, living life of Riley, the whole bit, and enjoying my life, but I was burned out. I didn't enjoy what I was doing for work, even though I was making good money, and I just quit. Sold it, rolled the dice, the money had the bank, took over his career as his manager and partner, trademarked the phrase, and started all over again. Sometimes you just got to roll the dice and go after what you truly want to do. And that was a great move on my part, in my mind, because it led me to where I am today business-wise, and also led me into the UFC.
What a story. The last fan question is, what would be your walkout song?
Thunderstruck by AC/DC.
It's a good choice. It's a good choice.
Whenever they play that, you'll see me in the octagon kind of. Sometimes I get caught up in the music when I'm in the octagon when they're walking out. I definitely get caught up in Thunderstruck when they start playing that.
Some fans don't know about your martial arts background. Am I correct in saying that Frank Trigg was once in an elevator with you and Dana and said, what are you going to do about it to you, and found out, and then you shook hands at the end of the elevator ride? Is that how it went down?
Pretty much. That's a nice short way to put it, yeah. Well, when you get ridge hand sucker punch from behind in the neck, it's not really a fun thing to have happen. So I don't take kindly to getting hit in the neck from behind in what we call a cheap shot.
Wow.
So, Frank and I are friends, and I think you've probably seen the folklore animated show that Dana put together. After they did that on that incident, Dana called me up and he goes, "Buff, you're going to love this. It's the best thing we've ever done." I go, "You kidding, Dana? Did you really?" Because after that happened, like I told him the story, Mikey Burnett came up to me and he said, "Hey, Buff, I heard you took it to Trigg, our little tete-a-tete we had in the elevator." And I said, "Mikey, how did you find out about it?" He goes, "Dana's telling everybody." So, it's like, okay, one of those things that I can't live down. But hey, somebody puts their hands on you, you got to stand up for yourself. I'm not trying to sound like a tough guy or whatever. Like every man, you've got to stand your ground, right? My dad taught me that when I was a kid. He goes, "You're going to get bullied in school. When they come at you, he goes, punch them right in the nose. You don't do that, you're going to get picked on forever." And that's a simple theory of life I've always lived by.
I'm excited for that moment. The music coming up, the lights have dimmed, Sinead O'Connor, hearing your voice. Do you have a preference for calling a particular fighter? McGregor's got to be up there, right?
Oh, like fighters that I enjoy calling their names out? Yeah, I mean, there's obviously definitive moments in announcing, and Conor McGregor is always a spectacle, right? So yeah, I mean, how can I not get behind that? Right? Totally. Even Habib, when Habib's in there, the longer the name, the more the syllables, the more I like it. The hardest names in the world are single syllables like Frank Trigg or Mike Swick, but you still get them out, right? But yeah, to announce Conor McGregor to the world, to announce Jon Jones to the world, George St. Pierre, Chuck Liddell, I can go on and on and on. There's no way you can get a feeling for what it's like for me to be in the center of that octagon or in a fighter's face or in their zone as they egg me, they egg me in or whatever. I never institute the fist bump. That's all from them. I never start that. I'm giving it to them because they're asking it from me. I didn't even start that. That was started by a fighter years ago. But again, I'm there to serve them. These are definitive moments, but I'm going to relish that moment and enjoy it as much as possible. Right. And again, if you were able to stand beside me or have a GoPro on my shoulder to see what I see and feel what I feel, and 20,000 people throwing energy into that octagon as I'm getting bombarded by all the excitement that they focus, but I don't even hear the crowd. I'm focused on the eye of the tiger. I'm looking into their eyes. I'm totally into that fighter at that point. I can't even hear the audience. I'm just doing my thing for them.
Even on Cameo, I think once it went viral, somebody asked you to break up with their girlfriend. It's time for Keely to move on. I just thought it was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. What was going through your head when you got that one?
Well, first off, I love doing cameos. I'm in their top 10% on Cameo. I love filming cameos. I did not know he was breaking up with his girlfriend. Okay, he wrote that request in. He made it sound like she was getting a new job, or got a new car, or was getting a new house. So I gave it all I could give, as I always do for everybody when I film their cameos or their videos. And then it turned out that he was breaking up with her, and the darn thing went viral, right? It was covered by the New York Post, the New York Times, TMZ, the London papers too. And I publicly apologized for it on my podcast because I would never do that. Don't even think about asking me to do a video for you to break up with your girlfriend. I won't do that. He slipped it through. He got it through. I told Kaylee to get a hold of me, and I would do a video for her to send to him. It would be a good one, but she never got a hold of me. Strangely enough, as fate has it in this world in which we live, it boosted my business like 300%. But I don't do those. That was it. He pulled the wool over me. He got it.
It's time. It's a story I think I've heard you tell on Logan Paul's podcast, but it's become so iconic. And it's interesting that you teach branding to other people, but could you go back a bit and tell me about its time and how that came about and how it became what it is? Because the way it makes you feel, I've sat front row at UFC events and definitely mouthed it as you've said it, and really it made me feel like I'd arrived at this big show.
Well, that's the whole key point to it, right? I never thought I'd become a cheerleader, and I became the ultimate cheerleader. So, in a kidding way, I started every day, and I still do. Looking in the mirror, shaving, doing whatever. You're getting ready for the day. I slap myself and go, "It's time." To be the best I can be. It's time to have the best day I can have. And when I started in the UFC in 1996, my first show, and then when I became the announcer for all the shows, I was managing and still do manage my legendary brother, Michael Buffer, known for his famous phrase, "Let's get ready to rumble." And I was not phrase driven. I wasn't interested in being, with all respect, Frank Sinatra Jr., right? I wanted to go out and be recognized for Bruce Buffer, to do my own style, my specific style, because nobody's like my brother. He's the greatest announcer of all time. He has an amazing, distinct style. We're partners and we're very different in our presentation. So I told myself in the first 2 to 3 years, if I don't develop my own style, then I would probably stop, because I didn't want to be the guy riding the coattails of the most famous announcer in the world or trying to be Michael Buffer. That was not my intent whatsoever. My whole goal was not to be trademark driven, but it's not what I say, it's how I say it. So for the first 7 years or so, I never said it's time during the main events. I would start off the UFC show itself and say, "It's time to begin the Ultimate Fighting Championship." And that's how I started the show. And then when Dana White took over the company, which was the greatest thing that ever happened to the UFC, when he and the Fertittas took it over, I was called into my meeting with Dana, and we went over everything. And Dana wanted me to stop saying that at the top of the show and sort of, shorten my introductions a little bit. And he told me that his favorite introduction of mine was when I introduced Evan Tanner fighting Tito Ortiz in Atlantic City, and to keep that kind of excitement and energy. And that's exactly the excitement and energy that I like to keep throughout the entire show. So it was like, yeah, this is perfect. So eventually, a couple of years later I realized, you know what? The fans have been sitting here for 5 hours. The fighters have trained 8 to 10 weeks. It's coming down to the main event. They're in the octagon. This is the moment we've all been waiting for. This is what it's all come down to. It's time, right? So that's where the whole "it's time" started. And then if you look back to when I first started saying it, it doesn't have the same inflection or the energy with which I say it today. Because like everything in life, there's an evolutionary process, and you hone your tool, you hone your muscle, and you get to that point where, okay, now it's done exactly the way I like it. And whether I used to jump 3 feet in the air or jump, to whatever I do now, turn, twist, whatever, I never know what I'm going to do till I do it. The bottom line is I got to get it out there, because my job is to enhance these fighters and the great fans watching. The show is not about me. It's about the fighters and the fans. And my job is to get them as excited as possible. And that's what I'm trying to do at that moment, because it's time. It really has come down to this defining, definitive moment in the lives of these two men or two women who are putting their blood, sweat, and tears on the line. So I have to give them everything I got. And that's exactly what I try to do.
At your level, you've got to a level now where it's lucrative enough for you to make a great living being the announcer of the UFC, and it's the travel, the focus, that could be enough for most people. But the entrepreneurship, the amount of projects, what drove you to want to be an entrepreneur?
Well, I've always been that way. I mean, whether it was my first lemonade stand when I was 8 years old, to being a paper boy when I was 10, to working in those catering trucks, those trucks that used to drive around where they're making the food inside. My uncle owned one of the largest companies in Philadelphia, and I spent my summers working on those trucks. My dad was an entrepreneur, a writer. He taught me a lot. And I went to school. I went to college, and I was studying business. I had a jewelry business in high school I was making good money at, where I would make, literally, me of all people, I would make necklaces and earrings and bracelets for, the girls in school. And I started realizing that, hey, this is a great way to make money. So I got involved in the telemarketing industry when I was in college, and I started my first company when I was 19. I stopped going to college in my second year, and I thought, okay, let me go to work in the streets. Let me cut my teeth. Let me see if I can make it, on my own in business, which I felt that I had a good mind for. And I never went back to college. I was making great money when I was 19, and I just kept moving on. And I've pretty much owned every company I've ever worked for, except for the fact that I work for, the great people at UFC, Dana White and everybody else, which I love. But other than that, I want to call my own shots. I want to be my own person. I want to make things happen the way I like to make them happen. And that's why when I took over Michael's management, my legendary brother, Michael Buffer, and we trademarked that phrase, let's get ready to rumble together. And over the last 30 plus years, built it into what it is, all the products that I created and developed out of that, and all the stuff that we did together. I applied the same principles to my career and my brand. It's time, my trademark phrase, which has grown, thankfully and lovingly, very, very popular around the world, which has allowed me to create the, products like the It's Time Cologne, which this is great, by the way. I got to tell you, women love it, men love it, the whole bit. I'm coming out with 2 new versions of it and a whole line of toiletries. But, you brand it. I mean, it's all about branding and marketing, which I teach to different companies. So this is the It's Time Cologne. I have the It's Time energy drink coming out worldwide soon. I'm very proud of this. No sugar, very healthy for you. I'm not a lover of the energy drinks that are out there. I don't like putting a lot of the stuff that's in them in my body, and I avoid them. So I thought, I could use a little energy once in a while. Why not work and create my own? And I sided myself with an incredible company in England. And I'm very proud of that product. We're coming out with that, hydration products, nutritional products. But it's all about branding and marketing. It's all about creating a base, which in my case is the octagon. In my brother's case, it was the HBO boxing ring, and building everything out from there. As the saying goes, you take your shot. Everybody has a chance in life to do whatever they want to do. You got to take your shot. And that's why I created the Puncher's Chance Bourbon. It's all about one punch can change your life. Take your shot. I know I'm kidding around, but I'm actually quite serious. I try to have fun when I do all this, and everything I'm saying is all part of my mentality when it comes to branding.
The energy drink game is competitive right now. I think we've got Canelo, Tyson Fury, the Paul brothers. How much do you relish that competition? How much does its time stand out?
I love competition. To me, success breeds competition, and competition breeds success. And I like everybody to be popular. And the bottom line is that the energy drink field is a very large competitive field. But if you capture even 1% of the market, you're doing incredible, right? So also too, my energy product is very high quality. It's not along the lines of the others, which are, I like to say with all respect, the truck driver drinks full of sugar and full of this and full of that. I believe in taking care of yourself and being very healthy. So I'm trying to apply the same principles of my health and awareness to the products that I'm bringing out.
As I said earlier, just being who you are inside that octagon would just be an absolute dream for most people. But these other ventures that you have, so exciting as well. Which one is the most exciting for you and really is driving you every morning at the moment?
Well, again, there's a couple. I can't just say one. I mean, I love the cologne. It's like women take care of themselves for us. We should take care of ourselves for them. Okay. You want to smell like a champion. This is really a grand achievement for me. And I'm coming out with 2 more scents here over the next year. So it's great. The company I'm working with that makes this for me and develops it and markets it for me is such a great company to work with. I love working with them. So that and my energy drink coming out, these are my babies, right? I really enjoy this. But I also have another company called Millions.co. I don't know if you're familiar with that company or not. And I'm a founder of that company with these other great guys from Canada. And I'm really proud of the Millions.co site because as a fighter, you can go on there and we brand you. We create merchandise for you. They have watch parties to watch UFCs, like the Shevchenko sisters are on it. You can buy their merchandise. You can watch UFCs with them. So many UFC fighters are on there, along with major athletes from all over the world, from soccer to football to baseball, basketball. Check it out, Millions.co. It's incredible. But let me tell you one of the businesses that I truly love. I love all my business. I try to do what I only try to do what I'm passionate about. I'm a very passionate person. And the great thing about having passion for what you do in life is that you wake up and you're not going to work, you're living life by design. So I'm very excited, and I have fun working in all my business ventures. But one that really I take a lot of pride in with my partner Kristen is that we do videos and voiceovers for the fans and for businesses, where I introduce you like a champion in the octagon, or I do an average of 5 to 10 weddings a week, introducing the couple into the reception, walking down the aisle of love forever, presenting for the first time, like that. And those type of things, when I do those, or the birth of babies, commemorating the birth of the baby, I can go on and on because I get requests for so many different things, including many from businesses. But the thank you notes I get, and we give partial proceeds to charity, but the thank you notes that I get from the people for their wedding and to be part of their special day, honestly, listen, I like to consider myself, tough guy and, trying to get through life and be strong like every other man out there. But I'm also Italian. I get a little emotional. I get tears in my eyes from these thank you notes that I get. It's incredible that to make people so happy on their special day, or with the birth of the baby, or making them feel like a champion, that's what I love to do. And I love to give back to the fans and pay it forward, as best I can.
So we are Essentially Sports. It would be fantastic if you could say hi to the fans of Essentially Sports and tell them to follow the latest trending MMA news at EssentiallySports.com.
And now, this is the moment you've all been waiting for. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Essentially Sports. And now, it's time to follow Essentially Sports at EssentiallySports.com.
Beautiful. There's a reason you're the main man. Bruce, it's been an absolute pleasure. Wishing you all the best in everything that you do. So exciting and massively inspiring.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I appreciate all your kind words. It makes everything worthwhile. And keep on doing a great job. You guys, I love getting the notices when you're putting up stories about the UFC and MMA. You guys do a great job, and I really respect and appreciate it. Keep it up. But thank you again.